Hi everyone, it's Sandra. This is Cinderella, and I'm going to talk about putting cotton in our bins today. But first, let's take a look at last time. I put some of my wood chip leaf mulch combo in that we brought with us from Victoria a couple months ago. Then I added a big dump of moist, previously frozen food scraps before topping it off with some of our almost processed compost that we also brought with us from Victoria. Of course, it has a lot of chunky elements still in it, so Cinderella's going to have to work through those. Cinderella has some pill bugs running around to help her with the chunky bits. I forgot to add pulverized eggshells in the food, so there it goes on top. And then my feeding zone indicator, Prince Charming. I decided to add some water on top of the paper to keep it as moist as possible through our summer temperatures. Now, back to today. So this newspaper is a little dry after 17 days, but the pill bugs are still active. I'll just shake them off. So I knew I was going to add some cotton to Cinderella today, so I looked at the research ahead of time. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens to cotton before it gets into the hands of the eventual consumer, as well as things that the consumer may do that could impact the worms or the vermicomposting process. Cotton is a natural fiber, which makes it biodegradable and suitable as a carbon source for our vermicomposting systems. However, if you have access to cotton before it is processed into textiles, some of the issues you might be concerned about is whether the cotton plants themselves had been exposed to pesticides or herbicides. Your concerns, according to the research, would be correct. There's a nice guy. Because these pesticides and herbicides can slow reproduction and in some cases cause mortality in the worms. The good news is these chemicals are rinsed out of any cotton before it is processed into textiles or thread. The processing into textiles and thread exposes the cotton to both bleaching and a process called mercerization, which is a soda wash, I think, that causes a sheen to go on the cotton and increase its strength. But again, the good news is these fibers are extensively rinsed before they would be turned into any materials for the consumer. Researchers mentioned that we shouldn't be concerned with any dyes that the cotton textiles have been exposed to. In fact, they said that worms do very well with post-consumer cotton-based beddings. I found out the carbon to nitrogen ratio of cotton textiles is about 150 to 1, which makes it pretty heavy on the carbon or brown side. Remember, your vermicompost is usually about 30 to 1, 35 to 1, so you need to balance out any cotton bedding with some high nitrogen foods like this watermelon and veggie scraps I'm putting in here. I'm coming into this bin at an awkward angle, so I can't quite spread this food out as much as I would like to. I'll do the best I can, and then I'm going to give the worms just some cornmeal and some eggshell grit before I give them their cotton treat. I'll put a link to my deep dive on carbon to nitrogen ratios in the description in case you haven't seen it yet. So that brings us to what I'm doing today, which is putting a used piece of cotton textile. In this case, it's an old doily that I found in our packing material. Just giving the worms some of my haircut here and a little bit of our leaf mold and fine wood chip combo. When you have any textile that you put into a worm bin that has been through maybe your laundry, or the researchers mentioned stains can often harbor chemicals as well. There could be residues on this material, so you'll notice this doily is damp. I gave it a thorough rinse in some rainwater before I gave it to my worms. Detergent residues can persist even after going through a washing machine. especially with certain detergents, and also if you use a cold rinse cycle. These detergent residues, the researchers found, can be toxic to worms. It can kill them, or at the very minimum, slow them down and slow down their reproduction. One of my university colleagues did her master's degree on pesticide and herbicide residues on clothing that a farmer used that went through a family laundry, and found that those pesticide and herbicide residues ended up on the baby's clothing. So be careful if you're adding textiles to a bin, but generally worms love them for their rich carbon content. Cinderella looks in fine shape here, but oops, I forgot Prince Charming. All right, thanks everyone for watching. Bye for now.